Police Foundation plans to build a $90 million, 85-acre mock city for training police officers. The area they've chosen, known as Weelaunee Forest, which originally belonged to the Muscogee indigenous peoples, filters rainwater and prevents flooding, both critical in Atlanta's fight against climate change.
But Cop City isn't the only facility that the residents have opposed. Around the forest is a Hollywood studio, sanitation center, juvenile prison, and asphalt and trucking factories.
So that's Key Road landfill. Nobody wants to address the environmental injustice.
The facilities have severely polluted Entrenchment Creek, which flows downstream to the South River. Jacqueline Eccles is trying to prevent the construction of Cop City from an environmental perspective.
When we were here about a month and a half ago, we pulled 100 tires out of the river and 40 or 50 bags of trash. When you look at the rivers, the creeks, none of them meet water quality standards. And the cheapest way to improve water quality is to protect the green space. 2017
report by the city's planning department, the South River Forest was designated one of Atlanta's 4 major lungs. Now, the city is walking back on its vision to conserve the forest.
To just turn around and just disrespect the community, because, you know, it's not, they never cared about the river.
The reality is that this mayor is not even funding the Housing Trust Fund to what is legally required, and he knows better. $100 million of debt is not general fund revenue. You all need to demand that 1.5% of general fund revenue be met this year because the money's there. If you can pull $30 million out of your ass and another $67 million in total to fund this police, freedom of speech, to fund this police bullshit, we also know that the land in that area floods because we don't have sewers in our community. And we know that you all haven't come up with the rest of the money to pay for that so that we don't have floods in our community. One of my friends, apple has rotted far from the tree.
The line wrapped around the building by midday.
And this is directly going to affect our community.
As hundreds of Cop City activists converged on City Hall. Protesters rallied the crowd as they waited to get inside. Several cut signs in opposition to the public safety training center.
This is the mayhem I saw on May 15th and May 31st. To recap, because I believe so many of you are not listening, on May 15th, over 200 unpaid people came here to oppose Cop City and 0 in favor. On May 31st, a SWAT team arrested 3 organizers for charity fraud. What the hell is going on?
Atlanta cops charged those 3, once again, Marlon Scott Couts, Adele McLean, and Savannah Patterson, all board members of the Atlanta Solidarity Fund. They raised money for people in jail during civil protests, and they paid legal bills. They were charged with money laundering and charity fraud.
You see, it's real simple. To all of those who are elected to council, this is not difficult, all right? Know who put you there. You're going against your own base. You have a base of progressive voters that voted many of you in, believing that you were different than the corporate agenda represented by those who came before you. This is the part that defines not only your political legacy, but it defines your soul.
The magistrate judge in DeKalb County, who said he was very unimpressed with the state's lack of evidence. The judge also expressed concerns that freedom of speech violations from the government may be at play. In an even more ironic request, the state prosecutor asked for no bond to be granted. No bond for a non-violent charge.
You're moving into totalitarianism, where subservience to the state is required or you will be targeted. Georgia Deputy Attorney John Fowler said these organizers were radicalizing other people through the use of anti-government materials. But a cornerstone of democracy, what we teach our kids in social studies classes, is that when a government is corrupt and unethical, the people must organize and push for justice. And that is exactly what is happening today.
The authorities have brought charges of domestic terrorism, a disproportionate and unnecessary response to the alleged crimes committed. The intent of the police appears to be to discredit the protest and deter participation. But people have a right to protest peacefully.
The police want to build a $90 million training center here. The conflict at times turning violent.
This is a warning to those who are sitting in the ivory towers and those who sit here in elected office. You are making peaceful revolution impossible. Because the truth is, the people who are out-of-towners are the corporate donors who are backing the Atlanta Police Foundation. They don't live on Peachtree Street, they live on Wall Street. They don't care about the people, they care about the almighty dollar. And they don't have our best interests at heart. And right now, if you vote for this facility, you don't have our best interests at heart. You're bought and paid for.
All of this said, I have a different problem. This whole thing is a project of the Atlanta Police Foundation, a private nonprofit corporation funded by a bunch of very much for-profit corporations. Atlanta turned over Cop City to this nonprofit because private corporate donors said they would put up $60 million of the $90 million tab to build it. The city of Atlanta won't run Cop City. Atlanta doesn't earn the profit from renting out Cop City. The foundation does. Stop. Hear this. A private organization that doesn't have to answer an Open Records Act request or hold a public meeting, formally accountable to no one except their corporate funders, will control police training in Atlanta.
Question: where do they get the funding? The organization says private sector companies fund its projects, and we looked at the tax filings, which shows 80% of the money comes from private donations. Its board filled with executives from nearly all of Atlanta's big name companies. Let's take a look at some of them. Waffle House, you see Equifax, Wells Fargo, the Home Depot, Delta.
Did council members approve this facility? It's important to understand the Police Foundation in Atlanta. It's considered one of the most powerful police foundations in the country. For instance, when the mayor was elected, the CEO of the foundation served on his transition committee. Among those sitting on its board are leaders of corporations like UPS, Wells Fargo, Chick-fil-A, Home Depot, and Delta Airlines. The APF raises investments to finance police projects like Cop City. Of the $90 million needed to build the facility, $60 million will be funded by the foundation's corporate donors. The remaining $30 million will likely be paid by taxpayers.
That disruptive power is a threat to the political establishment and the billionaire elite and the corporations that run this city. That's why they want to build this militarized police center, to be able to control the people, to be able to militarize the police against the residents of Atlanta. Stand with the people of Atlanta and vote no on Cop City.
Community, but I'm so disheartened and frankly disgusted by our elected officials continuing to ignore our cries for justice, continuing to not honor your promises to represent the constituents who put you in those seats.
But they collectively agree they're done letting the city sideline their voices.
This fight is not a fight about what City Hall is going to do. This is a fight about what you and I are going to do. City Hall doesn't have the last word on this fight. We have the last word on this fight.
And I support that all people are free. They have inherent freedom and liberty. And every time you put another law, another regulation, another police force on the street, you're putting the boot on our necks. And the people are getting tired of it.